Hey guys, welcome to Work Our Way. I'm Allie.
And I'm Patrick.
And this is a story about two millennials who quit their jobs in the U.S. to come to Australia and live out of a big orange van called Fatty and travel around doing comedy and content creation for travel clients around the world.
Yeah, and now got a little bit of volunteering under our belt.
Yeah, so we left off in Cobargo, which is a small little town about 4 to 5 hours south of Sydney.
Yeah.
And it's a town that was hit really hard by the fires. It's the video that went viral of a bunch of locals screaming at Scott Morrison to do more about helping out with fire relief and giving them donations and assets to fight the fires. It's on YouTube. You can look it up. But that's
great video.
Oh, amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, if you guys aren't familiar, Scott Morrison is... people don't know outside of Australia. I guess people in the U.S. don't always know other people's prime ministers and presidents. He's the prime minister of Australia, and they do not care for him.
No, and I don't quite know the story of how he got elected, but I guess no one really elected him.
Yeah, he wasn't elected. He, stabbed whoever was in power in the back. I don't know either. Who cares? He seems like a dipshit. That's the truth.
Yeah, he's a huge nerd.
And Cobargo, this town that was super affected by the fire. If you guys haven't listened to our past episode, I think titled Australian Bushfire, we talked quite a bit about kind of our first impressions of how things went. And overall, what we saw and kind of how it affected us. And I don't think this episode is going to be as heavy. I think we settled into it. It was still a heavy job to do, but I think I don't think the episode is going to be as heavy. We're winging it a little bit. We've had a long ass day. This is the first day in about 2 weeks that we haven't been up at the crack of dawn volunteering. We left Blazeaid today to head over to Sydney. To shoot. No, you're not shooting anything, but I'm going to be doing some comedy out there, so we had to kind of move on. So we thought...
Whoa, sorry. I just got bit by a fucking ant, and he's still alive.
Kill him.
I can't. He's right here.
Oh, kill him.
Okay, just give me a sec. Oh my god.
Okay.
Look at him. He's got pinchers.
He's got pinchers. Kill him.
I was wondering what the fuck just bit me.
It was an ant.
Oh my god, look at my leg.
I will.
I'm trying to kill it. I'm sorry. It's not dying.
All right. Sorry about this, everybody. I'll take it from here while Allie kills an ant.
It's huge.
I believe you.
I can't wait for you to see it.
I can.
Sorry, I was very uncomfortable the last minute and a half. Oh my god.
Let me see. You okay?
Yeah.
Do we need to pause?
No. No, it hurt. I was really trying to keep it together. I'm so sorry.
All right.
Do we need to start?
No, we might as well just continue. We're 3 minutes into this thing. Let's just let her rip.
I need to clean it up. Just keep talking
Okay.
about Cobargo.
Yeah, so we left Cobargo today. And it's been rough weather since we got there, which I guess the area needed, but it has been pouring rain the entire time. And it's so we got bogged down. There's some Instagram video of us trying to get Fatty out of the sports grounds that we were on. Let me see.
Look at it. See all that?
Yeah, nice little bite there. Allie just got smoked by an ant.
It had pinchers. The ants here are fucking nuts.
Everything here is nuts.
They look so scared. I was like, what the fuck is on my leg? It feels like there's something on my leg. Why is it burning? I was like, why is Pat? I was getting very annoyed very quickly with everything you were saying because I was in so much pain just now.
I know that
game. And then I turned around and there was a giant ass ant on our blanket and it had pinchers and it was doing the stupid little like the crab walk that the ants do here.
Yeah, they bow up on you.
Yeah, they throw their pinchers up. Throw your pinchers up at me.
Independent ants over here.
Yeah,
they don't need no mants.
That's stupid.
That was stupid.
Oh, yeah.
All right, well, I didn't really hold it together on this podcast without you. So where were we? Cobargo.
Okay, so yeah, let's talk about Cobargo. So we we showed up to Cobargo. If you guys listen to the first episode, this is kind of the part 2 of that whole experience because we just got done with 2 weeks there. So the first week, the fires were still going on, red sky, we roll in, it's super hot. And then from day 2 onward, it's just been raining like crazy. So the fires are out, and any fires that are still left are very much contained. So it's not really a fire zone anymore, but we were talking nonstop at the last podcast because we met so many people who were completely devastated by the fires. They lost everything. They lost their homes. They lost their livestock. We heard stories of people who lost their family. So we were just, and this was week 1, and we were just very overwhelmed and very emotional. So if you listen to that episode, you can kind of get a good, you'll be caught up with everything that's going on. So this is week 2 of Cobargo.
Yeah, and we probably won't highlight as much as of the devastation because that was a heavy episode, and we still want to keep this pretty light, pretty fun, and do what we do best, which is complain about shit. So,
well, I just got chomped on by an ant, so that's a good way to
start.
So
good way to start is, in a bad mood here. But this was, I mean, we got to see some different things. Allie and I worked for 2 different organizations out there. I was a Blazeaid guy. Allie was a Team Rubicon gal.
Yep.
You know, that old fairy tale.
Yeah, and they share a
Capulets
camp.
and Montagues.
Yes. And they share a camp, so there is a little bit of a rivalry
Ravelry.
Right. So it's been interesting. And my role with Team Rubicon was very different from my role at Blazeaid. At Blazeaid, I was just helping out. I was doing assessments. I was doing the fencing. And with Team Rubicon, I was their official photographer. Like they said, I was deployed as the photographer. Which is already very interesting because it's structured very similar to the military. But that's for a reason. It's all ex-military personnel for the most part. Yes. So veterans, first responders, that's kind of who they cater to and how they recruit. But
yeah, specifically for disaster relief, not just for...
So it was interesting that I was the photographer because I actually had a PRO. So I was essentially enlisted.
What's a PRO?
It's a public relations officer, so very similar to a PAO in the military, which is what I actually am. So I'm an officer in the military, I'm public affairs, but in this role, I was the photographer. So I was essentially an enlisted homie. So that was just kind of a fun little swap. I don't know if they meant to do that or how that all went down, but I got to have fun with this role, and I got to actually go out and document it through photo and video. So that was just different, and that was just a fun dynamic operating in an organization where I was essentially demoted.
Yeah. Well, you want to talk about demotions. I got promoted. So what we do in Blazeaid is like we help farmers kind of rebuild their fences. Yeah, we're kind of specializing in fences, but we kind of help them all around as much as we can with whatever skills we got. So chainsaw skills, fallen trees, just cleaning up some of the devastation, some of their burned out property, that type of stuff. And I got promoted to be a team leader on one of the fence building crews, which is odd because I don't know how to build fences at all.
Zero
experience. And I was just like, it seems to be the main objective of what you've tasked me to do. So I was just like, I need somebody who has any experience in building in fences. If you want this to be at all resemble a fence, if you want this to look something recognizable, and have a farmer not to be really pissed off at my work, I need somebody who has some experience. And I kind of got some people with experience. It was a little bit of the blind leading the blind, but it was pretty fun.
Well, it's the blind leading the blind, but they also throw in like very dangerous roles, like being the chainsaw guy.
Yeah.
I don't know if half of those guys with chainsaws were really anywhere close to being qualified to handle that kind of machinery.
That was their job.
Yeah,
there was one guy. I was his safety observer for the chainsaw, and he was like, you know what? I just want you focusing on the top of the tree. If you see anything falling down on me, I want you to take this stick. And he handed me a stick, and he's like, and throw it at my back. And I was like, okay.
But what if you miss?
Yeah, what if I'm not a really good thrower of sticks, dude. Yeah, what if I miss? Yeah, really
what
good
if
point.
I'm not paying attention?
No, that was my job. Mine was to pay attention, but that was the whole thing. I would just watch the top of the tree with a stick cocked in my arm, just thinking, what the... what is it? I don't... Is this stick gonna hit him before whatever's falling does?
Well, what would he do if the stick hit him?
Drop the chainsaw and run backwards.
Okay.
Which, that might not even be the best course of action.
No.
Oh, no, he would drop the chainsaw and hug the tree.
Hug the tree.
Yeah, because things fall further from the tree. He did say that. So things, when they fall, they start to fall away from whatever they're falling. Unless it's a very big building, and then they start to fall closer. Okay. I think there's something physics about that. But, so he would just hug the tree. He did say that. Okay. But I got to watch a couple of trees fall.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, kind of scary when you got that wild man on the fucking chainsaw with a stick method. Yeah.
Man, yeah. No, that's a good time. Yeah. So Team Rubicon. So it was a 1-week deployment, but I had to quit a day early, which was a little dramatic.
Yeah.
It was just. So this isn't the first time that I've documented disaster. And specifically, it's not the first time that I've created awareness content for any disaster. Like, my first time ever was when I was 19 years old. I went down to Louisiana to help out with Hurricane Katrina. And I had to, fund my own way. I had to do, fundraisers and ask for donations. It was a whole thing. And I got down there, and I spent my spring break, freshman year of college, kind of just helping out and volunteering. And I have to show you this video. It is, the worst video I've ever made for anything in my entire life.
Why would you show it, then?
It was my first... because you just have to see it, because it's just so dumb. But what I did was I took photos on a digital camera that I bought for $50 from a Target. So it was horrible quality. I just took photos and made a slideshow with the music from the House theme song in the background.
House? Dr. House?
Yeah, do you remember that show?
No, I remember the show. I don't remember the theme song, no.
It's like... It's so bad. It's so bad. And it's somewhere in the deepest, darkest depths of Facebook. So I'll have to find it and show you, but it's so bad, and I don't know what I was.
You don't have to show us. If it's that bad, you probably don't have to. You shouldn't show us.
I have to. You need to see how far I've come, because I used to just be so horrible at doing this kind of thing. So 10 years have gone by. I've learned a thing or two. So what I've noticed is when there's a disaster, and specifically when you're creating content for a disaster, there's really two types of people that you meet. You meet the people who are homies, who are normal, who are just there to help, there to learn the stories of the people who were affected and spread awareness, but staying true to those stories, staying genuine in the reason that they're there, etc., etc. But then you have the people who are only there to further their brand. They do it because it's self-serving. They're disingenuous, and really they're there for the wrong reasons. And unfortunately, there were a couple people within the organization who were in leadership positions that were exactly like that. So, yeah, it went against my moral and ethical standards as a photographer, and I'm very protective of the locals when they've lost everything, and they're already so sensitive to cameras. And they'd just been burned by the media, who were very vulturous the first week after a disaster. So it got to a point where I just had to be like, yo, I'm a volunteer. I don't have to put up with this. Like, I'll do what I need to do. I'll create good content. But, like, if you keep treating me like this, if you keep putting me in these positions where it just does not feel right, I just can't do it anymore. So it was kind of a...
Well, give us if you can, the closest details you can to, like, what kind of positions those are.
So it was the commander position and then the state commander position. So the top two positions.
Sure, but the position you were in. So, like, give us an example of the compromising position that you would have been in.
So I was asked, and I get it, you know, when there's organizations that specialize in disaster relief, they rely solely on donations, and sometimes those donations come from political parties. They come from other organizations who... generally get preferential treatment.
They need to, the more, the harsher the circumstance of the video, the more likely you are to get donations. So, is that correct? So, like, the more hurt a person is, like, the more, you know what I mean? But not in this scenario. But, like, for example, the more blood there is in the scene, the more it's going to get shared, and the more likely you are to get help, right? So, using that example, extrapolating down, like, using other people's devastation and showcasing that in a way can get more donation, right?
Kind of. Well, what I was going to say is there are certain alliances within organizations where one organization will donate more to an organization like Team Rubicon. So Team Rubicon is more likely to assist. So, for example... let's say the fire chief donates a ton of money to Blazeaid or Team Rubicon, and a fire devastates an area. Because they're donors, they get sometimes first dibs or whatever.
Then, so I completely misunderstood what you're saying.
There's politics involved, like there's relationships that, as someone who is new to an organization, I may not know the history of.
I see.
So what I'm saying is, one very awkward position that I was put in was there was another organization who was on the ground at our camp, and they had a very good relationship with the organization that I was employed with. So they wanted to take some photos together with the intent of publishing these photos online on social media. But they asked me to essentially stage these photos. So they wanted me to go to, like, a burnt area of the town and take photos of the two organization leads, like, talking and pointing and acting like they were in, like, a disastrous area. Which is, like, very unethical because it's a lie, one. And two, it's like... okay, well, you're just picking this place, like, you're picking to support this town, Cobargo, because, like what you said earlier, like, the more devastation and the more presence you have in that devastated area, the more likely you are to get support and donations from other organizations. So it's just fire fuels fire in that instance, and that's how these people get by. But that's not right. That's, like, very disingenuous, and I was like, this sucks, this is awkward, and I hate that my face is attached to this right now. But there were other instances, too, where they wanted to present certificates to residents, and they wanted a photographer there, but they didn't want to ask for consent from the residents beforehand, so they wanted me to kind of be a little paparazzi, which I'm like, that's like, not okay. Like, I can't... These people are hurting. I have relationships with them. I already know their story. Like, I don't want to be put in a position where all of a sudden I'm very much taking advantage of their story for my own or the organization's gain.
Right, yeah. You don't want to be predatory.
Exactly.
Even though you understand that you need to highlight some of the devastation and the people most affected, you don't want these people to feel like they are a mascot for the worst day of their life.
1,000%. And they're sick of telling their story. Like, they've already had to tell it to the media, to their neighbors, to the people that they see at the pub for the first time that they've been out since the fire. Like, they're exhausted, and they're just over it. They don't want to talk about what they just went through. They want to talk about how the hell they're going to move forward and what they're going to do to fix it.
Good point, yeah.
So and you have to understand those sensitivities if you're documenting something like that. So it's just, I ended up actually doing a video for them, and it was super difficult to film because, like I mentioned earlier, it has been raining nonstop every single day since we got to camp, to the point where we had to get pulled out by a tractor today.
Oh, yeah. We were up to our
stuck.
axles in mud.
We were stuck, and it was like horrible. But this particular day that I had to film, I only had one day to do it, and it downpoured the entire time. So I was like, I'm going to try to do time lapses that show the before and after. Those all failed. I tried to do drone footage. That failed. The drone wouldn't fly in the pouring rain. Everything that I wanted to do fell through. So I was really like stressing. I was
but the video came out so good.
Oh my God. And you guys can see it. We posted it on our Instagram, Work Our Way, if you want to check it out. And it's doing really, really well. Senators are sharing it from like New South Wales and other politicians and other organizations, media, radio shows, they're all sharing it, which is really cool. But honestly, that was like my plan D. The way that video turned out, I was like,
oh, it was aces. It was really good.
Well, we just had to really, the last Hail Mary was, okay, I'm going to try to sit down with this resident. I'm going to try to get her to tell her story. I know she's told it a million times, but I want this video to focus specifically on her story, and I want her story to match, really, I want her story to be the common denominator of every single story that we've heard so far. So I want her to talk about the fire. I want her to talk about the eeriness of it, the devastation, and the fact that they still need help. And that was the whole
How were you
theme of
able
the
to get her
video.
to do that?
So I had to just, and it was frustrating because she was being pulled in a million directions by people who didn't need to be pulling her in any directions. So I just had to seriously sneak her away to where she was staying, which is just this little trailer. And I had to just sit her down in a chair and just get her to a place where she knew that she was going to be sitting for a while. Because usually when you talk to someone about something emotional, the first 15 minutes are crap. You can't really use them because they're only saying what they think you want to hear. They're not actually saying what they feel, and that's emotionless. So if you want to get to the emotion, you have to buy yourself time. So I just had to sit her down and get her to a point where she was able to talk. And luckily, I had an amazing boss. The PRO, the public relations officer, so bomb. She did her job so well, and she was able to coordinate all of that for me, so I didn't have to think about that. I just had to think about filming and what she was going to ask and all of that. So it ended up working perfectly because we were a really, really good team, but we just needed her to feel like she could tell her story in one go and not be distracted by people coming up to her.
And she knew she was on camera, right? She knew she was being recorded. There was nothing predatory.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep. I mean, that's the thing. The two things I tell people when they're documenting disaster, especially if it's their first time, I say what you need first is consent, no matter what. Before you film,
you listen to that, fellas?
Ask. Consent is so important. But number two is intent. So actually, I mean, I know I'm talking a lot here, but there's a really good example that I learned in when I was at the journalism school at the University of Minnesota. There was a photographer, I want to say he was from France or something, but he put together this story to try to shed light on world hunger.
Oh, the little boy.
He went to India. No, not that one. I know what one you're talking about.
The vulture and the boy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, this one was different. He went to India. And what he did was he asked people, locals, who lived in rural Indian towns, to pose, to essentially close their eyes. And he was going to set up like a full table of gourmet food in front of them. So it was a contrast, right? It was like skinny, malnourished Indian people that were sitting in front of full tables of food. And realistically, they were not this entire time closing their eyes and having an entire plate of food set out in front of them. They knew what picture was being taken, but this guy got banned from like every photographer association ever when all those photos came out because it was malicious intent. So these
Wait, there was actual food in front of them?
Yeah.
They didn't get to eat it?
Well, I don't know. I don't think so.
Well, if he got to eat it, if they all got to eat it, then he just gave him a bunch of food. I feel like that's a pretty...
Well, I think that's a good example of asking for consent. Hey, can I take your picture? But they, obviously, the models in those shoots did not understand what message he was trying to convey. So the intent was malicious. So even if you have consent, even if you say, can I take your picture? And they said yes, if you don't also communicate where these photos are going to go up and what context they're going to be used, like, you have to also communicate that, because you just don't know, right? Like, you could be taking a photo of someone, they're smiling, but then you go and put it on your Instagram and you're like, wow, what a fruitcake, this guy sucks.
Yeah, he's looking at the Nazi flag and look at that smile, and you're just like, what? That wasn't looking at the Nazi flag.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's still, that can still be manipulated even if you have consent. So I tell people, ask for consent, but also please ensure that they understand the intent of what you're doing and the message that's going to be conveyed behind it. Because Cobargo people, they might not want to be portrayed as weak or damaged. Well, but they also are so strong.
Yeah, and they weren't portrayed as weak or damaged. I don't think.
No, but that could absolutely be the case when you got all these influencers and content creators rolling through. They could look at the devastation and think, oh, the poor residents of Cobargo. Whereas the residents, they say, no, we're not weak. We're not the poor residents. We're strong. Like, we're getting over this. That's the message that we want.
Though we need a little help, we don't need your pity.
Exactly. So that's the full circle of really being able to properly document disaster is having all those boxes checked. So that's my soapbox. But that's essentially what I went through this last week in that particular role. And it was interesting.
You had some challenges.
Highs and lows.
Well, you had some challenges of leadership over there. You still haven't gotten to why you quit?
Oh my God. Well, it was one thing after another. And for anyone who's dealt with toxic leadership, they know the deal. They know how it rolls. But this person in particular was just...
Before you go dogging the leadership, though, you should throw a shout out to Team Rubicon and the people.
Oh my God.
Because it is worth differentiating between a bad leader and a great organization.
Always.
Full of absolute pipe-hitting volunteers.
They
People
were
giving
amazing.
their time and like actual hard effort, making full connections with the people of Cobargo and giving 110%. As far as I could see.
Yes. Some of the people that I met were so honest to God. They weren't officers in the military, but I initially met them and I'm like, you are an incredible leader. You are incredible at what you do. You are so driven. You are so passionate about what you're doing. And I swear every single person on that team was like that. They were like just so good at what they were doing and so capable. And, they were all just natural born leaders, and it was so inspiring to see. And I learned so much from them.
Not just from a leadership perspective, like in terms of their efforts. They were just, they were there to work. And they did, right?
Yeah. The before and after photos that I saw were absolutely incredible. And it was because they were just so driven. And so they worked well together. The fact that you could have an organization where a bunch of strangers show up and for 1 week, they all just understand their role and they just do it without asking, without being told, like, that cohesiveness sometimes is rare to find. And I felt like in Team Rubicon, everyone just got it. Everyone was just on the same page. They were all like, yep, this is what needs to be done, and we're going to just find the role that fits us, and we're going to do it. And that was really badass to see.
Yeah.
But
what kind of stuff did Team Rubicon do?
So they kind of did the same stuff as Blazeaid, which is funny that they did have a little bit of a rivalry because it was...
do you know how to say that word?
Rivalry? What am I saying?
The rivalry.
Yeah, I got a rivalry.
Yeah, try and say it one more time. Give it to us right.
Rivalry.
There it is.
They were rivals.
Yes, they were ravels.
I'm trying to speak with an Australian accent, just switch my vowels up.
You just still don't know how to do that either.
I know I don't. But yeah, so they do the same things. They do basic chainsaw operations. They do fencing. They do welfare checks. They will go through homes and sift through the rubble to look for valuables like metals or other like jewelry. And that's really kind of the main four that they do.
And what were you guys doing?
We were doing damage assessments in the beginning of the week, and then very similar to Blazeaid, we would go out on jobs and primarily do chainsaw work. I want to say they did a little bit of fencing, but not really. It really was just chainsaw. It was, what's that little construction thing that digs the holes? That little...
You got to talk into the mic.
What is that thing that does that? You know what It's got the little... It's like a crane, but not
shovel?
really.
Steam shovel?
Yeah, it's like a shovel, but it like picks it up, like it digs ditches.
Okay.
Well, they had one of those, and one of the guys was
an
a
excavator.
Driver. Okay. With a little shovel in the front?
Excavator. Yeah.
Okay. Well, they had one of those, so that was really good for just redigging ditches, because since it was raining nonstop, there was risk of flooding pretty much everywhere that we worked. So you had to almost dig out trenches so that the water could go around certain debris or go away from homes and other things. So, but yeah, no, you had some interesting leadership.
You still haven't gotten to why you quit.
Oh, I haven't. Okay. Well, it's God. I mean, I could talk forever about this. But
You have been.
Really, it was. I know. It's just all of these things that compromised my moral and ethical code. It just kept adding up, and it just got to a point where I was like, I just don't feel comfortable. Like it was toxic. That's really the best way that I can put it. I mean, you would walk by the tent and they'd be screaming at each other.
Yeah. Oh my God. Like, you just hear. Oh.
And like, how do you like edit photos or like get work done when that's just going on around you? Like, that's just, so the work environment was tough. But I mean, it was just, they didn't have accountability for, they left one of the team members at a job site on the rainiest day of the week. And this person had to walk like 1 to 2 kilometers in the rain before being picked up and brought back to camp.
That's hilarious.
And when that person walked in and tried to confront leadership and was like, what the hell, the leadership refused to take accountability for what happened. They basically were like, well, that's not our fault. We weren't on the ground. We didn't make this decision. We weren't in the car that left you behind, which is like not the thing that you do if you're in charge at all. Like, yeah. If your guys fuck up, that's your fuck up. You have to like own it a little bit.
A literal accountability of your people is the bare minimum of what you're expected to do as a leader. And if you don't have all of your people and someone goes, where are your people? And you go, uh-oh, I don't know. That is 100% on you. If you left a person at a job site, that's 100% on the leader.
Well, in the military too, it's like the phrase is, no one gets left behind. Leave no man behind.
Yeah, and this veteran organization has a leader who is just like, you got left behind? No worries, and also not my fault.
Yeah, exactly. Which is nuts. Like, I was like, whoa, this is not okay. But we would do things like reflections, where at the end of the day, everyone just like sits around and shares their feelings, you know, the whole rigmarole. And leadership had beef with certain people. And it was very obvious that they had beef because in these very intimate, sensitive settings, they would just publicly disregard and disrespect these people in front of everybody. So if person A, who leadership hated, was talking, leadership would decide that that's the time that they're just going to talk amongst themselves and not even listen to this person pouring their heart out. So just like stuff like that, where it's like, it's public and everyone sees it, and it's very, it fractures an organization.
It's disrespectful. It's just blatant disrespect.
It is.
You would hear them talking shit about people, right?
Absolutely. They talked about people behind their backs in front of me day one, where I was like, that's not okay. Like,
when you see, especially a leader doing that, you automatically, or at least I do, and I've called leaders out when I was in the Air Force for doing this. If I know exactly how you feel about every single person, because you talk shit about them when you're around me, then I imagine you do the same about me when I'm not around.
Yeah, exactly.
And which is 100% correct. I guarantee that she was also talking shit about you.
1,000%.
Yeah.
And I mean, I had to make a tough decision, and the decision was, okay, do I want to keep putting up with this, or do I want to leave? And on day 2, honest to God, I wanted to leave. I was like, I can already tell. Yeah. One of the we have to kind of get into the backstory of why we even got involved with Team Rubicon. But I can't remember if you mentioned it last episode.
We did. It was on not asking for permission just for a chainsaw.
Right
whatever
on.
Episode that was. We were both going to go to Team Rubicon. I couldn't go because I have a tourist visa. Allie's on a working holiday visa. And for whatever reason, the insurance would cover her. Team Rubicon insurance would cover her, but not me. So I got to go live and work at Blazeaid, which I'm so happy about.
Yeah.
And Allie went to go work at Team Rubicon. But after day 2, when things were starting to get really bad between the PRO and the mission commander over at Team Rubicon, they brought in the state commander to mediate, and then he had something to say to you.
Yeah, he pulled me aside and basically was like, hey, I don't know what your deal is, but I'm not sure that your visa allows you to be employed here. Which I was like, 1, that's already been sorted and I'm good. And 2, you don't make that decision. That's done at a way lower level. And the only reason that you would be involved is if someone at a higher level said something to you with the intent of removing me. So it was super shady, and it very much seemed like I was trying to get booted from the start.
What a fucking
just
turd.
Because I pushed back on some of the, like I said, unethical decisions that were made as it relates to photography and documenting this disaster. So it was just really shady from the beginning, and the only reason that I stuck around as long as I did was because I had such a badass supervisor, the PRO, the person who I was really directly reporting to. I didn't want to let her down. I didn't want to leave her to do both of the jobs, because she wasn't gonna quit. She is very involved in the organization, and she believes very strongly in the mission, and the mission is truly so badass and so cool, and it's something that we want to continue doing when we get back to the States. But
and despite the bad leadership, the people were still doing a good job.
Exactly.
Like not the leadership, the foot soldiers. Which just always seems how it is. Always seems to be the case when you have bad leaders, that the people who are forced to put up with them still get the job done.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, it was so eye-opening for me, especially because I was in a lower role than I traditionally have ever been in the military. So I was able to see so much more and really understand how people at that level feel when leadership is just crazy and toxic and not working well together and not genuinely supportive of the mission, etc., etc. So really, it in all that happening, and despite the fact that I left early, I walked away being like, whoa, I have a way different outlook on how this all should work and how I can do better as a leader in the military moving forward. Like that was truly very eye-opening for me, and it was good.
It was good.
Even though it was bad, it was, in the end, it was good. Yeah. But I know you had some dramas too. I mean, I only came over for a couple of days after the
Yeah, so
left.
you quit Team Rubicon and you came over to Blazeaid. Don't make it seem like you stopped working.
No. I wasn't like hanging out in the van all day while everyone else was getting after it. I just went immediately to Blazeaid as soon as I left, and did some work with them. But you got to see kind of the build up of some leadership.
So
pause, if you will.
I mean, well, yeah, it was just, thing about Blazeaid is you have a bunch of people volunteering day in, day out. We don't get like Team Rubicon does a 1-week wave. So you come in on the first day, you're not doing any work, you're just getting to know everybody. You do your second day and it's like a recon. You get to understand like the job you'll be doing, and then you work the next 4 or 5 days, and then you have your last day off essentially to just clean up around camp. Blazeaid, the camp it's evergreen. So the continuity is enduring. The leadership doesn't change over. The people do, and they change over kind of at will. So people come, they camp out, and then they start working for as long as they can. And you're entitled to take a day off whenever you want, and not take a day off for as long as you feel it is safe to continue working. So I think the small leadership kerfuffle I saw was kind of the result of everybody just working too hard.
Yeah.
It was people going in, day out, working all day long, and then cutting loose a little bit afterwards, and then getting up and doing it again. And it was I lost track of the days, because our days would be wake up at 6. We are on the job site somewhere around 7:30, 8 a.m. That's after breakfast and our muster little all call, where you get your duties for the day. And then you work all day until 3 to 4 o'clock. And the teams I was on, the fencing teams I was on, we'd go out and have our debrief at the pub. Mm-hmm. So we'd all sit down for 2 beers, usually, and have our drinks, and then head back to camp where there were a bunch more beers. But like nobody was really regulating, and Blazeaid was like pretty good about, I don't want to say turning a blind eye, but not treating everybody there like children.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Now Team Rubicon was having one of their last nights.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And they were whooping it up and drinking quite a bit. And one of the guys that I was working with, he was the team leader on most of the jobs that I was on. Mm-hmm. He was over there. It was a Friday night. So it was the end of his week, but, I mean, he's going to be up the next morning anyway, working. There's no days off. This guy, and he was the hardest working dude there. He was one of the more knowledgeable guys in terms of fencing and overall construction. The guy had good ideas. He leaned forward. He was a problem solver. I was happy to be on his team. You know, I was made a team leader, and I took my team out a couple of times. But if there was a bigger job to do, he wanted me on his team. Like, he drafted the best. Mm-hmm. He was funny. He was easy to work with, and you worked hard. You were tired by the end of your day with this guy. And everybody on his team had that mindset. Had the mindset of, okay, we're going out, we're working our ass off for these people, just no matter what, just pipe hitters. You know, good.
There was one guy on your team who was, 75 years old?
75. This dude was the man. And, these two got along like a house fire. Forgive the expression. Might be an Australian expression. Probably not after these house fires.
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah, he was 75. He drank a bottle of wine every night.
Every night. That was, he was, he'd been a millionaire. He had owned a construction company, lost all of his money in the financial crisis, and now he is living on the road. It's called a gray nomad, so he's just going, he has his caravan, and he takes it from campsite to campsite, and he says he follows the sun, and that's his life. Yeah. But he was out there every single day. He didn't look 75.
No.
And he didn't work like he was 75.
No.
He worked like he was max 50 years old.
Yeah, he was on the machinery with you. He was doing all of the hardest jobs, I would say.
Yeah, a great, absolutely
75.
Great team. Hardest working team at Blazeaid, and I was honestly lucky to be a part of it. Mm-hmm. Because this guy was super personable, too.
Yeah. So
he made connections with the people we were working with. They loved him. Everybody in Cobargo knew this guy by the end of our time. That being said, we were doing... so he was out drinking with Team Rubicon, and one of the camp leadership got pretty pissed off because they were whooping it up pretty loud, and he comes over and yells at the lot of them, and this guy, being a little bit drunk, but also just being a grown-ass man in a volunteer thing, getting yelled at by another grown-ass man who's also volunteering, they just kind of laughed at him. And their relationship devolved from there. The next morning, we all show up at breakfast, and they're dishing out the teams, and they're reading the team that's supposed to be going to the location we were at the day prior. Now, the day prior, I fucked something up. Now, like I said, I don't know shit about fencing. I don't know shit about fencing. But, like, I was told to do the stay posts that hold the strainer posts in a certain way. You know, these are all terms that I'm now becoming familiar with. And the ground was soft, so by the time I put the strainer posts in and set a little bit of the quick set concrete, they slipped out of place, and it bungled the whole thing. So we had to do a good bit of the fence over again, which meant pulling up some fence posts that were in concrete and smashing the concrete up. Kind of a huge pain in the. I felt like the prized asshole. I felt like I was tore up about that. You know, you got a bunch of dudes who are working their ass off, giving their time, and I fucked something up, and which caused quite a bit more work for everybody.
Yeah, but it all worked out. I mean, you weren't like the leadership at Team Rubicon that would have taken no accountability for it. You were very upfront and honest with, okay, like, I fucked up. This was just the decision that I made. It wasn't the right one. As a result, we have to do the work again. And I mean, the team, I worked with you the day that we had to redo it all. And it was as if nothing had happened. The team was still like, let's get it done.
Well, there were some other things that screwed up. So it was like we were just restarting the whole thing. So my screw up helped us make the decision that we were just going to have to pull all the poles up and just redo the fence. So that's what we did. But I still, like, I felt like an asshole. Yeah. The biggest one on earth. Because the last thing you want to do is disrespect people's time, right? Sure. They're giving this much effort, and you're making them do something over again because you made a bad call. Anyway, so the next morning, we're going back to that location. They're calling out the teams, and he's reading the list for the next team, and he leaves the guy. Oh, should we give him a nickname?
Yeah, let's give him a nickname.
What should it be?
Mark.
Is there a...
How about Joey?
Okay, let's give him a Joey. Yeah, Joey. That's not bad. That's pretty Australian.
Yeah.
And we'll call the other guy Tim?
Sure.
Okay, that's a 75-year-old is Tim.
Okay.
Joey and Tim.
Yep, I like that.
And what should we call the boss man?
Ooh, boss man. Let's do... Oh boy, I don't know.
Give me a name.
Let me...
Anything.
I'm trying.
Any name.
Alfred.
Okay, that's a good one. That's not bad. I like that. So Alfred's reading off the names of the team, and he leaves Joey off. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting next to Joey, and Joey's sitting across from Tim, and we all just start kind of looking at each other. Oh, before this, Alfred says, hey, let's address the elephant in the room. Last night, Team Rubicon was out of line. They were partying too hard. They kept people awake. And Joey raised his hand and goes, yep, and that was me too. I want to apologize. Yep, I was out there. Getting a little, tying one off at the end of the week. Mm-hmm. So sorry about that. And then he goes through and Alfred reads the teams off. And he goes through the team that I'm on. And he names the whole team. And Joey's not on it. And Joey raises his hand and goes, hey, that's my team. And Alfred says, yeah, you're not going out today. Pat, are you going to take, can you take your team lead today? And I'm just like looking around. I was like, yeah, but I need to express and stress the importance of having someone that knows how to fence on my team.
Yeah, we
Please.
Still don't know. It's been 2 weeks, and we're just now kind of figuring it out.
And he goes, we'll talk about that in a second. And Joey's like, why aren't I on? And he goes, we'll talk afterwards.
Yeah, in front of like 40 people.
Yep, and everybody's just kind of looking. And Tim goes, all right, mate. If you're not going out, I'm not either. I'll quit on the spot. I was like, whoa, oh boy, this is
everything on black.
This is, yeah, oh man. Tim keeps it a 100 every time.
What a man.
He keeps it a full buck, nothing less. So, go through the rest of muster, and Alfred, as Joey's like, hey, let's talk in the back. So, Tim and I both get up to approach Alfred, and Joey goes, hey guys, we still don't know what this is really about yet, so let me go talk to Alfred. So he goes and talks. 5 minutes later, Alfred comes over and says, I'd like to talk to you and Tim, now behind we're just around the corner. Mm-hmm. And so we go out, and he says, I witnessed Joey last night having a bunch of beers. He looked like he was staggering back, and I think it's a safety call that that he doesn't go out today. I think he's a little dusted up, and he might still be inebriated. And Joey goes, "Well, I'm not inebriated, mate. I'm fine."
Mm-hmm.
And Tim goes, "I don't think he's inebriated at all. And if he doesn't go out, I quit." I was like, Jesus. Oh, boy, here we go. And I'm keeping quiet for the most part. If Tim is going that hard in that direction and that's not going to fluster Alfred, the only thing I can do is say, I need Joey. I got to have him because I fucked up the job yesterday, and I have to have someone that knows how to do this so we can make this right for the farmer.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So they go back and forth, and Joey says, "Well, you're singling me out, dude. It was a Friday night. Everybody was out at the pub. You saw me with Team Rubicon, and I think you're just mad at me because I laughed at you."
Yeah.
And Alfred was like, "Well, no, I'm not singling you out, but I did see you. You're the only person I saw, and you did laugh at me." He's like, "So you're punishing me. You're punishing me because I laughed at you. You made a tit of yourself in front of the Rubicon boys, and I laughed at you for it."
Which is one hell of an insult.
Oh, calling a person
someone
a tit. At that point, I kind of laughed, and now Alfred's getting pretty pissed. You can tell he's getting pretty pissed, and Tim is just ready. He's just ready to quit. Give him a reason.
Oh yeah.
And so they continue back and forth on this line, and I forget where the tipping point. Alfred knew Tim had owned a business, knew that he owned a construction business, and just turned to him and he was like, "Tim, if you saw somebody on the work site drunk, what would you do?" And he said, "Oh, I'd can him immediately." And we all laughed. Myself, Joey, Alfred, Tim, we all just laughed for a second. And he was like, "Exactly. Well, that's what I'm doing here." And he goes, "Well, I don't think he's drunk. Are you drunk, Joey?" And Joey's like, Nope. He's just saying, you're mad, dude. You're mad because we made you look like the dick that you are." And I don't think Alfred is a dick. I do think he was tired and he was angry. But he may have overplayed his hand calling Joey out in front of everybody.
Yeah.
Joey deserved a bit more respect than that. Just in terms of how hard he'd worked for Blazeaid nonstop. And that there wasn't a rule set, formalized in the camp. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
So it went back and forth, and ultimately, I was just like, I need an expert. Listen, Alfred, I fucked something up. We have to dig this shit out. And it's in concrete. Joey here's a concreter. Mm-hmm. Okay, I need to know I don't know how to do any of this shit. I'll lead the fuck out of this team, make sure everybody's fed, I'll make sure everybody's tasked, and everybody has, we are working.
Yep.
The entire time. But I need somebody to tell me what to task them with, to help me. I don't know how to do this. And so finally he was like, "All right, we'll have a one strike policy. Mm-hmm. This is it. If you're willing to take responsibility for him." I was like, "Done. Yep, I'll take responsibility for him." And so we all went out to the job site. We got to the job site. We brought everybody together, and I was like, "Listen, for all intents and purposes, Joey knows what we're doing here, what we got to do. Mm-hmm. All right. We all know we had to tear this fence up, and the order in which that happens, I don't know how to get it done."
Yeah.
So and then we just worked our ass off for the next 8 hours.
Well, it was just weirdly dramatic because...
You were out there that day.
I was out there that day. We had a great day. We worked so hard. But just back to the early morning muster when Alfred was like, "Oh, I have to address the elephant in the room. You guys may not have gotten much sleep last night because there was a party and I had to shut it down." This party was shut down at 11:30 p.m. and muster is at 7 a.m. So it's not like this party was going on until
it wasn't 3 a.m.
4, you know what I mean? It was people still got pretty much 8 hours of sleep. So that was what added to the surprise of all of this just kind of getting out of control. Because it wasn't, I was like, I don't remember any of that. We went to bed early that night. I mean, that was...
But Joey stayed pretty pissed at Alfred, even when Alfred gave him the one strike policy. You can go back out. It took Joey a second before he accepted. Yeah. He was just like, "No, man, this is your call. You better stick with it. You've made this decision. You better stick with this decision. I'll leave today. That's fine. You don't want me here. I'll fucking leave." And he was ready, and Jim was too.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Tim was too. I forgot our fake names.
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, it was just interesting. It was interesting in a non-military setting to be in these organizations with traditional, like, hierarchies of leadership with people who are just volunteers, who maybe don't, maybe not have the experience, but...
Well, Joey was a military guy.
Joey was.
Yeah.
But was Alfred?
Alfred was not. No, but Joey, I mean, he said privately, he was just like, it's been a long time since I let anybody talk to me like that. Mm-hmm. You know, like, you gotta, like, a lot of these guys are, you know, they're coming out of pocket. Mm-hmm. They're taking time out of businesses that they run and own to come out here and help. Yeah. And, like, okay, should he have been drinking out that late? Like, oh, if he wanted to. Mm-hmm. If he fucking wanted to.
Yeah, we're adults.
That's the thing. This isn't. He didn't sign up for some military, law and military. What is it? UCMJ. Yeah. Uniform Code of Military Justice. He signed up to help Cobargo, mm-hmm. and that's what he was going to do. Like, come hell or high water. Exactly. So he was pretty unwilling to hear any criticism over what time he went to bed.
Well, and like I said, it's just especially shocking because I would maybe understand where Alfred was coming from if he was catching this guy walking back at 4 or 5 in the morning. Because then you only have 2 hours to sleep. Are you then sober enough to drive and actually be out on a site all day? I don't know. Maybe then that's the time to make that decision. But even so, you do it in private. You don't make an example of them in front of everybody.
Yeah.
People are just like, that's...
Yeah, most people didn't care. Most people didn't know. Oh, I had no idea. I slept like a rock.
Exactly. It was like the best night of sleep I got.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. But I'll tell you, we went out to that job site. That was the best fence we made. It was...
Hell yeah.
And it was like, now we can use that paddock. It's full of grass. Like, the cows are going to be healthy. That farmer can make money. He can employ other people from Cobargo. Yes. Like, it's like, you don't... It's a small thing, I guess, but it makes a huge, huge difference. And we fucking worked. I am still sore. Like, my fucking bones hurt.
You smashed it. You crushed it in all aspects out there. It was awesome to see, truly. But what was also awesome was after we went out on the job, our last night in Cobargo, we went to the pub with all the members of your team and one of the farmers who, we'll call him Mike.
Yeah, Mike.
Who, once again, lost everything, but it was just very painful because this was already a very reserved person who was, in his shell, and, when you go through a disaster like that, it doesn't usually make it worse. It doesn't make you more
He told
open.
An awful story about...
Oh, his stock.
Yeah, his stock. The farmers, they get to know, these aren't slaughterhouses. These are dairy cows, and like, I don't want to call them pets, but they're closer than just cattle.
Yep.
To these farmers, and the hooves were burned. He said the lips and the eyeballs were burned, and they were just in agony,
blistered shut.
And he just had to go through, indiscriminately, I guess, and kill each one.
Yeah.
By himself, just like. And he was just recounting it, and he was blank-faced, just telling us the facts. And so we bought him around, and this is a guy that Joey met mm-hmm. on like his first week. So Joey knew it was his last night out, and gave him a call and said, "Hey, I'm going to be down at the pub." And sure enough, Mike showed up. And he bought us around.
Yeah.
Oh, because he was, as in his shell as he was at that point, he was still thankful for what we were doing. Mm-hmm. But something you got to understand about Joey is he's an out of your shell kind of guy.
Yeah.
And he's over there shucking and jiving and laughing and making jokes. And he's the life of a party kind of dude.
Yeah.
And not because he's drinking, he's like that on the job site. He's just that way. He's a very warm and inviting person. And I would say, after 30 minutes of talking to this dude, we're talking 10 minutes after he's telling us how he just had to put down his livestock, this guy's eyes were lighting up, and he was laughing. He was busting a gut.
Yes.
He couldn't, his face was beet red. He was buckled over. The fire captain came over to Joey and just said, hey, man, that guy that you're talking to has been so devastated by this fire and is usually, like, just normally a reserved guy, and has gone deeper and deeper into his shell after this. This is the most lively I have ever seen him. And it was like it was something cool to see.
Yeah.
Like a person got helped, which was pretty dope.
Yeah, and it's just the most heartbreaking thing about interacting with the community and hearing all these stories, and just the thing that I noticed from day one to the end is, when you talk to people just on a day-to-day and you bring up something sad or they remember something sad, maybe they're listening to a song that has a particular memory and you just see a flicker of sadness in their eyes, but it's just a flicker. It's there, and then they stop talking about what they're talking about, and they move on and they go back to being happy. That flicker of sadness just has been static in all of these individuals that we've met. It's just, they're talking about their day, they're talking about what's next and what they're excited for, but their eyes just remain sad. So near the end of our time in Cobargo, we finally were able to see a side of people who maybe didn't have a will to live a couple weeks ago, maybe couldn't see a way out, but at the end they were saying, oh, I can't wait until. And they were using that phrase. And there was one guy that I helped, a guy named Swampy, and we'll call him Tim. But he lost everything, and he was an older gentleman, and he was just in a really bad place mentally and emotionally. And near the end, we had found like a piece of melted, all his plates were melted together, and it kind of looked like a weird piece of art. And he was like, I'm going to put this up in my new home to remind me of you guys and everything that I went through. And the fact that people are able to look forward and just, I don't know, like that flicker of sadness is going away, and it's now going back to just being a flicker and not being the day-to-day that you see. So in the guy Mark, when he was recounting his stock and his cattle and putting them down, I saw that sadness, and I was like, man, this is just his life. He's always thinking about that. But when he was laughing like that, I saw it go away, and seeing that go away after 2 weeks of seeing nothing but sadness is like, I mean, it's healing for us too. There was
an older couple that one of the days I didn't get to be on Joey's team. I led my own team out, and we stripped this guy's fence. He ended up saving his house, but he was looking after 3 farms, his neighbors who had lost everything. So he wakes up in the morning with a long list of things to do, and he goes to bed at night after having worked all day and hasn't gotten to the first thing on his list. And that's how it's been for about a month for this guy. Mm-hmm. And we went to go strip his fence to get, thing 1 on his list done for him. And about 10 o'clock, we've been there for maybe 2.5 hours. He comes riding down on his 4-wheeler. And this is an 80-year-old dude. And in pretty good shape, he's definitely with it. I talked to him on the phone before we got there, and he sounded like a younger man. Mm-hmm. And I saw him talking to everybody on the way down the line to where I was at the very end of the fence. And he was just like, hey, we got tea going, tea and pancakes. And I said, oh, that's what he's been saying to everybody down the line. And this is important to this guy. Mm-hmm. This is important to him and his wife, that, he has somebody to talk to. And so I said, hell yeah, dude, let's go have some tea and some pancakes. And so we go up, we have some tea and some pancakes. We sit there for maybe 30, 45 minutes. His wife was lovely, showed us her artwork. She was so happy to be hosting people.
Yes.
To have someone to cook for, and made us all made me coffee. We talked, it was lively.
Mm-hmm.
And it was probably the most lively thing that's happened on their front porch since the fires.
Absolutely.
And so we go back out on the line, and then we had lunch with them, and a tractor got delivered. So the man got up, and he went to go deal with the tractor. And the wife said, he is a different man than he was this morning because of you guys.
Ugh.
It's so important for him to be able to work around other men, and it is so hard for him to talk about things, but he's talking with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
And we all just kind of looked around and we said, okay, we're doing some good here today.
Yeah.
And it's and the least of it is fencing.
Definitely. I mean,
and we saw them at the pub my last night.
Yeah.
We were just sitting there having a drink, and I feel a tap on the shoulder, and there he is, and he says, Patrick, we heard you were out here. And I was just like, oh my God, you remembered my name.
Yeah.
This is, and I mean, I don't want to make it about me, but it felt validating that we did something.
Definitely.
It was, he and his wife were there. We exchanged more than pleasantries. We caught up just a bit from what I've missed in the last week or so that I've been at their place. And, we hugged and we said goodbye. And it was, I'll remember that. It was an important little moment for me.
Well, you made such an important call by stopping what you were doing, stopping everyone else from working, and taking time to go have tea with them, because that was probably something that they used to do all the time before the fire. That was probably a routine for them that was taken away when the fire came through. And that may have been the first time they were able to truly do that again since. So one of my favorite moments with you is when we have coffee in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And we're there and we're having coffee and we're cuddling with Pepper and we're just talking before we go to work. Imagine if something happened where we were no longer able to do that. And then the first time we are able to do that, that would just be a game changer mentally. That, being able to get back into routine and to be with people as they start to get their routine back is the most healing thing that you can do for someone.
Well, we finished up the day, that day we worked on his farm, and he said it. He said, psychologically, this has been very difficult, but this is the first good day I've had.
Yes.
And we were like, oh my God, dude, this is the least we could do. We'll be back. Well, not me personally. Blazeaid we will help you. We are here for you, man.
It's a glimpse of normalcy,
Yeah.
That is what people crave. At everyone's core, that's all that they want. They want
to not be
to
forgotten either.
Yeah,
People have their back.
Mm-hmm.
And that guy knew that day we had his back.
Yeah.
He was, I feel good about the work we did over there.
Yeah.
And if you guys are listening, and you're over there camping and taking those same stupid pictures that everybody takes over in Byron Bay or Bondi Beach, pack up your fucking camp and get your ass over to Blazeaid.
Yeah.
Or somewhere. Guys, you can do some good.
Yeah, we're never going to forget this experience. And the fact that we were able to do it together honestly made it so much more memorable. But this is truly, it's something I'll never forget. I'm never going to forget these people. I'm never going to forget the look on their face when they started to heal from this. That's just something you don't forget.
Yeah.
And it's just incredible. Hopefully we can pass back through here when we head back to Melbourne. But even if we don't, Cobargo is going to have a very special place in our hearts.
Yeah, so honestly, so will Blazeaid.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, it might have a special place in my body because I am beat up. Beat up.
No, it's good.
Yeah.
It's really good. But, man, it's a long one.
It was a long one. Hope you guys, hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, definitely. Really quick, if you don't know, we have a website. Check it out, workourway.com. We're heading to Sydney. We're going to be in Sydney tomorrow, and we're going to be there for the next month. Pat has quite a few shows coming up. So if you want to see his schedule, if you want to pass it along to your friends in Australia, check it out. It's going to be up there pretty soon.
I go, if you are just listening, you don't want to, or go to the website. It'll be up there, but also Bondi Comedy Club on Tuesday the 18th. I'll be there. Then I got Magic Mike Comedy on Wednesday, the 26th of February. Let's see what this date is. The Comedy Lounge on Monday, March 2nd. Then we got, Super Tuesday. That's March 3rd. Guys, don't forget to vote. And then I got 5 Minutes at the Comedy Store in Sydney, which I'm super excited about. That is on March 7th. And finally, March, not that one. No, not that one. And March 12th.
Yeah.
At Club York in Sydney.
Oh, yeah.
So, more dates to come. But if you're around, love to have you. Email me.
Do it.
Love to answer you.
workourwaypodcast@gmail.com. If you want to email us questions. We didn't get to it again this week. Whoo!
Yeah.
So we're just going to have some
thick-ass questions.
Thick-ass questions. But yeah, hit us up, send us a message, send us some messages. Yeah, I need to leave. I need to go kick back some beers. I'm ready. But yeah, love you guys. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll talk to you later.
Bye, guys.
See ya.